Hello, I'm John Hoffman, Professor of Biology, and in this video we're going to take a look at how to make compelling arguments in public comments, whether this is in a public forum or as part of a class assignment. In this video we will consider what is a public comment, what makes a strong public comment, and instructions for making a public comment in class as part of an assignment. A public comment is an opportunity for individuals to express to decision makers, whether it may be a local government, a larger government organization, or others, about the impact of a decision that they're considering has on that individual. And so you will often see people speaking for and against proposals at things like zoning commission meetings that are determining, what is going to happen if somebody wants to kind of change the zoning within a region and maybe put up a apartment complex in a neighborhood that is usually residential buildings. In this case, we're taking a look at a recent call for public comments that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration made when they were attempting to collect information about a proposal to consider psychedelic treatments, a pharmacology treatment for therapy to treat PTSD. This is an example of a regional public comment period. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission was considering the application to build a controversial 1,000-acre pump storage hydroelectric facility near the Susquehanna River in York County, PA. And so this would mean basically building kind of the equivalent of a dam, flooding an area in order to be able to use that to generate electricity. But this would have an impact on the neighboring community, so they wanted to collect information from the members of the community, this public comment, before they made the decision to issue a permit to build this facility. This final example of a local public comment process is actually in Cheltenham Township going on this summer. This is taking a look at a restoration project in Robinson Park, and their goal is to improve water quality and mitigate flooding by enhancing and basically reestablishing a native habitat. What they're proposing to do is to dig up a buried stormwater, basically a current concrete channel that's buried underground, and replacing that with a natural water, almost like a creek, that is going to be supported by native landscaping. And so they're going to be digging out and eliminating some invasive plants that are in that area. This public comment period is going to be open to gain comments from individuals that may be using the park or individuals in the neighborhood that are concerned about how this would affect them. So what makes a strong public comment? First off, follow the rules. The decision makers are there to collect information from you in hopefully a civil and respectful manner. For individuals that may be protesting or chanting or attempting to disrupt the process, this tends to be counterproductive. And at least recently, there have been several cases where protesters have led to the cancellation of the public comment period, limiting the impact or limiting the ability for individuals in the community to have a say about what's going on to these people that are ultimately going to be making the decisions. There's often going to be a sign-up period ahead of time in most of these forums, often as part of like a city council meeting or a zoning commission meeting. There's going to be a limited amount of time for public comment, and so not everybody that wants to speak is going to be able to speak. And so you're going to want to be able to get there early and sign up to get on the list of those that are going to become available to speak. You're going to want to stick to within the time limit. Most public comments, each one is going to give you specific guidelines, but they're usually on the order of 2 to 3 minutes so that they can get input from a variety of individuals. So what you want to be doing is focusing in on making short, focused comments, which are going to be much, much better than kind of long, rambling, and confusing statements. It's going to be important to identify yourself. This is important to the decision makers to show why you have a stake in the topic. That it isn't just protesters coming in from another area trying to disrupt this process. It's getting information from the public that's going to be affected by the decision that they're going to be making. Ideally, get directly to the point. You've got maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes, and so you want to state why you are there very explicitly. You want to say, I am in support of this, or I am against this decision. And ideally, say more than just I'm for it or against it. Support your position with evidence. I am against this decision because it's going to impact me and my family in this way. Or I am supportive of this project going forward because of the benefits that it will have on our community. As always, emotions tend to run high in these public comment periods, but ideally, if you can provide solid evidence, that is going to be more compelling and more convincing to the decision makers than simply emotional outbursts. And then finally, recognize that these decision makers are making an effort to collect information from the community. They ultimately may not make the decision supporting your viewpoint, but they have made this effort and try to be civil and respectful in doing so. The next thing we're going to do is to break down a public comment into a series of steps. So basically, these are going to be instructions if you're going to give a public comment to a group of decision makers, or if you, in this case here, are doing it as an assignment for a class. So the first step is to give a brief and concise introduction in which you are going to acknowledge the intended audience. And so if you're speaking on an issue in Philadelphia, you may start out with good morning, Mayor Parker and council members. In this case, good afternoon, Dr. Hoffman, kind of referencing me as the intended audience for this assignment. Introduce yourself. So for example, my name is John Hoffman. I am a citizen of, and this isn't true, I live up near the Allentown area. My name is John Hoffman. I live in the Roxborough district, close to the floodways associated with the Schuylkill River. In this case, with the assignment, my name is, state your name, and I'm a member of the class of 2025, completing a major in biology or whatever your major is going to be. The second step is giving a clear statement of what your position is. Make it very, very clear to the decision maker. Are you there to support it or are you against it? So I am here today to talk about. I am here today to bring your attention to. I am here today to speak in support of, or I'm here today to speak against the desired topic and position. Now, you want to make sure you identify the desired topic and position because if you're going to a city council meeting or if you're going to a zoning commission meeting, there may be multiple issues on the itinerary for that day. So make it very, very clear to the decision makers what the topic is, what the decision you are speaking out for, providing information to them in order that they can make an informed decision. As I mentioned before, a good public comment is going to be clear and concise. They're often going to be emotional issues, but ideally you want to try to set aside the emotion in order to make substantive comments, ideally supported with evidence. And so in your comments, and again, recognize you're probably doing this within a very limited period of time. What is the issue? Why does it matter? Who does it affect? You're there, you're speaking on it, so it's going to affect you or it's going to affect your family. Make it clear what it is that this is going to do to affect you or your family. What do you want the listener or the decision maker to do? I want you to vote in support of this, or I want you to vote against this. Include any basic relevant facts to demonstrate that you're making an informed position rather than an emotional plea. In locations that have not done flood mitigation, we see massive damage on an annual basis with the flooding of the Schuylkill River, as we're seeing these 100-year floods occurring every 3 to 4 years now. And so provide that evidence so that, yeah, it may be something that the decision makers already know, but let them know that the community is aware of this and that it is important information that they should be considering. And then finally, the last part of a public comment should be a strong conclusion. Thank the decision makers, thank your audience for the opportunity to speak on the issue, and reaffirm your call to action by indicating whether you want their support or their rejection of the topic that is being discussed. Now, the nice thing when you're making a public comment in a real forum in front of decision makers such as a city council or a zoning board, you're not going to be graded on it. But for this assignment, for the students in my class, this is the rubric that I'm going to be using in grading it. The full rubric is available on Canvas. The goal is that you will give a brief and concise introduction, basically going through the steps I did on those previous slides. The brief and concise introduction, so you address the audience and identify yourself, and this is going to be worth 0.5 points. Clearly state your position in support of or against the topic. And so if your position is clearly stated, it's worth 0.75. Evidence in support of your position on the topic or refuting the opposing position. So provide strong, relevant facts or examples directly related to that topic. And this is going to be worth 1 point. An explanation of how the evidence supports their position or refutes the opposing position. So it's not just, I'm going to dump a bunch of information on you. You're providing the context. You are explaining why that fact or why that evidence is important in the decision-making process. And so what I'm going to be looking at is a clear explanation of the facts or examples that support your position or refute the opposing position. Explain how it applies to this argument. That's going to be worth a point. Ends with a strong conclusion, reaffirming their position. So making a strong concluding statement, making it very clear what it is you want the decision maker to do on that topic is going to be worth 0.75. Delivery is going to be important. Delivery is going to be important. And so voice strong, confident, limited number of filler words like yeah, kind of that stuff. Is going to be worth 0.5. And then the duration. Again, because if you give a real public comment, they're going to cut off your microphone at the end of your allotted time. And so you want to make sure that you can be clear and concise within the time you have available. Now, the goals in this class is that your public comment is going to be between 1.5 and 2.5 minutes long. And if it falls within that category, you would then get 0.5 points for a total of 5 points for this assignment. I'm looking at the exceeds criteria here to show you what is that expectation. There are partial credit points available if you don't hit the targets on this, but give it your best effort. I think this is something that is a valuable skill to develop, and I think it's also something that you're going to be able to do. What you're going to do as the assignment is that you're going to record this like we recorded our introductions early on within this class, and then post them in Canvas under the assignment. As always, if you've got any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I don't want anybody, attempting to do this assignment if they don't understand the expectations and how it is going to be evaluated. Thank you, and have a great day.